Welcome to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skibowski of Remax Lakes. Welcome to the weekend.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. And spring has, it's kind of sprung.
It's sort of sprung. I don't know that we're there yet.
It's on the calendar.
It's on the calendar, exactly.
So we got that going for us. I know I'm going to Florida here soon, so
bonus.
That's a good thing.
You look like you've been tanning a little bit.
Little bit.
I'm getting ready.
Doing a little prep. Getting ready. Well, I was in California a couple of weeks ago, and so
it's carried out.
That's kind of helped out. But so getting ready for that. Let's see. And in the springtime, that's when the real estate market heats up.
Yeah, and it has started heating up. Absolutely.
Over the past couple of weeks, we've been going through the process of making a purchase, and at the point where we're at right now, we've got the accepted offer. We know financing is good. So then, now what?
Yeah, we've said it numerous times. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background.
Right.
So, and one of the biggest pieces we focused on is the financing arm. So it's the appraisal. What's your underwriter doing? Those kind of things when it comes to your financing. But one of the most important pieces out there is the title work. And we kind of glossed over that a little bit, so I wanted to take the time to at least go over that.
Well, it's kind of like a mysterious thing because you know that there's things that are going on, but like me, I don't know what they're doing.
Do I get the keys at closing? That's
right.
what I care about.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the title work, there's two different types of title policies.
Okay.
There is the owner's title policy, which from a buyer you're pretty concerned about. Why are you concerned about that? You want to make sure you're buying a house that's free and clear and there's no surprises after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So in the background, the title company is doing a record search. In Kosciuszko County, they actually can go over to the courthouse and pull the recorded documents. We're pretty techy. A lot of it's available electronically now. But they'll go and they'll see, are there any outstanding liens or judgments against the property? That's one of the biggest things that title does.
Okay.
So why would we care? Well, if I buy a house and the prior owner, and we close on it, and everything's good, I didn't have title work, and all of a sudden there was a mechanic's lien. Somebody who had done some work for that prior owner,
Okay.
and they went to the courthouse and filed a lien that says if this property ever transfers, I get paid. Well, guess what? I now own it. That lien is now mine.
Wow.
So it's important to have title work done up front. Make sure, the sellers, at times when there's a lien recorded, you don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the seller. I mean, you might have had some work, you had an argument. You'll have somebody that goes, I didn't like the work they did, I just won't pay them. Well, it's fairly easy for, it's got to be legit.
Sure.
But they go down to the courthouse, fill out a form, pay a fee, and record a lien against the property. That says, if it ever sells, I'm going to get paid.
So the contractor does that, a lien against the property, but and so that doesn't follow the owner, the seller of the property. That goes to the property.
It goes to the property.
Wow.
So that's why title insurance is really important. You wouldn't think it's that big a deal, and quite honestly, there are not a lot of them that come out as it relates to mechanic's lien. But I did have a property. The seller was a very common name. So I'll use Joe Smith.
Okay.
I won't use his real name.
Right.
It's Joe Smith.
Okay.
We got title work run, and it came back with, I forget the exact number, but it was a full page of liens and judgments against Joe Smith. Well, I called Joe Smith and said, Joe, these have to be paid off, in order to sell your property if they're in fact yours. And Joe said, well, they're not mine. It happens all the time. Yeah. I'm Joe A. Smith. So they ran Joe A. Smith, and guess what? There were still a bunch of them. There's a lot of Joe A. Smiths.
Yeah.
So they came up with Social Security number and verified that they were not his liens.
Okay.
Unfortunately, if I had purchased that property without title work, I would have been battling that. If I'd have just went and, hey, sign the deed, we're good, I don't need any title work, I don't care if we research this or not, sign the deed over to me, those liens now become mine because they were attached to the property. Now, granted, I would have had to gone through the process to say, well, it wasn't really attached to Joe A. Smith's property.
Right.
It was incorrect, but now it's my frustration. So that's why we purchase title insurance on the owner's side. Now, your lender's going to require that you have a lender's policy, and that protects them. Notice we're using the term insurance, title insurance.
Mm-hmm.
It does not insure that if your washer breaks, it's getting fixed. It doesn't insure if your furnace breaks, it's getting fixed.
Okay.
It is only as it relates to the property. So I guess the other thing that I hadn't considered is there could be unknown heirs. It could be an estate. And somebody comes in and has a claim that said, well, that was my dad's house, and I should get the house now.
Wow.
After closing. Again, so the importance of title work, all the things we're talking, there's not good things that happen if you don't have title work.
Yeah.
So in our purchase agreement, we spell out who pays for those policies. And typically, in our county, the seller pays for that owner's policy. It's their responsibility to give us clear title, so they have to pay for that policy.
Okay. So what if somebody does come in and say, this is my house, I'm the heir to the estate.
Yep.
I mean,
did we have title work run and it didn't show? It's the title insurance company's insurance that will defend that claim.
okay.
Because it was not a matter of public record. It wasn't recorded anywhere. It's their responsibility then to fight it out with that assumed heir. If there's no records, no documentation, if there was no right to that, the title company's going to win. I mean, they've got attorneys that are going in the background. They research pretty thoroughly. It isn't like I can just frivolously throw up I guess I could, throw up a claim, but to actually win it, I've got to have sound basis for that. So when we do a transaction that happens to be an estate, the title company will ask for documentation as it relates to the estate. Is it a supervised estate? Is it an unsupervised estate? Is there actually a tax ID number? So in order to sell an estate, there's some paperwork that goes on in the background as well.
Okay, and what does this cost, the buyer and the seller?
So for the seller, it goes based on the purchase price of the property. And their established rates, we've got a chart that's out there. It could be as little as $200, could be as much as $2,000, depending on the value of the policy.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, very good. All right, so we talked about title work. We're going to talk about closing. Coming up here next.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time.
Okay.
Okay. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time here with Mark Skibowski of RE/MAX Lakes, and we've been talking about title work and just some of those things that happen behind the scenes that we just, some of us don't understand.
You just don't think about it.
What's happening, with that. Now, but with the title work, we talked about like errors on deeds or mistakes examining records, so they figure it out all that.
Anything that's recorded, the title company will find.
Now, if there's like an encroachment on the property, like maybe somebody has a fence on the property that's being sold, that comes out with the survey.
With a survey, yeah. So again, that leads to, should I have a survey, yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
I just closed one recently to where we had a survey done and the neighbor's well and their fence encroached on the property that we were buying. We made our way through. There are things that you can do to eliminate those, and that's a total another show.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, having a survey, if you're in an area where there's a potential for that, it's pretty important that you get one. There's no requirement by a lender that you have it. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, it probably won't make any difference to you. But if you're considering ever putting a fence on your property, it makes sense to get a survey done. So you make sure you put your fence on your property, so when you go to sell, you don't have that issue.
Yeah, I once had a neighbor who said that they asked me if they could put a fence on my property, and then they put up a marker saying, that the fence was actually on my property. I'm like, no.
That's probably not a good. And get it recorded at the courthouse that said that it's actually an encroachment agreement that allows them to do that forever.
Yeah.
So it runs with the property. Otherwise, when you sell your house, your buyer may say, I want that fence off my property, and your neighbor's out at that
Yeah,
point.
I just didn't want to deal with the headache. I said no.
Move it over 3 feet.
Yeah,
You're
right.
good.
Keep the fence line where it's at, and we'll be good.
That's it.
All right, so we got title work that is completed. So accepted offer, financing is good, title work is good.
We're scheduling closing.
We're scheduling closing.
So usually about a week or so out, you've got what's called clear to close. That's where your lender says, hey, we've got clear to close. And we'll schedule a time with the closing agency, typically a title company, to close the transaction. Now, a lot of people get wound up and, hey, let's schedule it a month in advance. My experience has been, if we schedule that far out, everybody's got it in their head. If there's a hiccup that comes, it creates more stress.
Yeah.
Although some of the title companies say, hey, go ahead and schedule it. We'll put it on the book, so we're holding a slot, because typically at the end of the month it does get pretty tied up.
Okay.
But closing we schedule closing, it's usually about an hour to an hour and a half. Again, it depends on the lender, type of financing that you're doing, depends on the buyer, seller. There's a lot of documents. The buyers are signing a lot of documents. And the seller is signing not so many documents. But if you've got a reader, if you've got a buyer that wants to read the entire mortgage, 17 pages, it's nice to know, get it to them in advance.
Yeah.
It's your lender. Basically, it says you pay, you stay, you don't, you won't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the terminology. It tells you, the mortgage specifies all the terms and conditions of the mortgage. So about a week out from closing date, we schedule the time, works for everybody. Our lender's going to send us what's called a CD, a closing disclosure, which spells out all the fees. Will tell us how much money we need to bring to closing. So in the state of Indiana, if it is $10,000 or more that we need to bring to closing, we have to wire those funds. We can't write a check, a personal check. We can't bring a cashier's check. We can't bring cash. If it's $10,000 or over, the funds have to be wired to the title company.
Okay.
So that's to protect everybody. It's an anti, I don't know, they're looking for bad folks that are doing bad things with money, drug money moving around, whatever. So, we have to bring more than $10,000, we'll get wiring instructions from the title company.
Okay.
It's critical, if you are going to wire money, verify you know where the money is going. Why do I say that? There are spammers out there that are grabbing emails, modifying the account numbers, and when you wire that money, you wire it to them, not to where it's supposed to go. So a lot of and it's happened here in Kosciuszko County, we've had title companies that have been hacked, so to speak. So it's critical that you make sure you know where you're sending the money. So when we coordinate that title insurance or those wiring instructions, we tell you to call the title company and verify the account information before you send it. So that's getting the money to closing. So the day of closing, what's going to happen? You're going to make sure you have your driver's license or a government issued picture ID, and you're going to want your social security number so that you can prove who you say you are.
Right.
Title company's going to verify that. You're going to sign all those documents, and I guess we're getting the, hey, we need to tighten up.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe we'll finish closing up next week, because I don't want to just jam through the last part of that process. There's some other things I'd like to talk about in there, but hey, we're almost there.
Yeah.
We have almost bought a house.
Yes.
4 weeks it took us to buy this, about as long as it took to get all the stuff done in the background.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like in real time. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, very good. Well, how's the new building going?
Well, we finally have selected a painter. We're going to get that started. They're going to power wash the building here coming up beginning of April and get her painted. We got some new signage going up. We'll have an open house sometime near the end of May.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. If you'd like to contact Mark, what's your email address?
Sure, it's Mark Skibowski at remax.net.
Okay, very good. Okay, have yourself a wonderful weekend. You've been listening to Real Estate in Real Time.